What's up, friends? Today we're going to be looking at a Yu-Gi-Oh deck that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks and I've been loving it. Yes, we are looking at Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duels is free, and for what it's worth, I'm a little bit burnt out on most other things. Magistus Pure. The Magistus deck's gimmick is that they equip monsters from the extra deck as equipped spells. Many extra deck Magistus have abilities that only work while they are equipped to a monster, but they also have some abilities that will work while they're on the field on their own. The goal is to lock our opponent out of their extra deck monsters, which is largely something just about every deck I've faced in the online meta has done. We have a pretty straightforward game plan, and so with that in mind, let's get into it. Remember to like and subscribe. I might not post nearly as much as I used to, but every now and then the creative juice will leak out, and I don't want the 3 folks who still follow this channel to get lonely. We have a handful of starters that we will want to see in our opening hand. The goal is to get into our level 8 synchros. We're going to discuss those later. We're running a playset of each of these cards, and starting up first is our all-star, Zeroa, the Magistus of Flame. He can equip a Magistus monster from the extra deck to one of our Magistus monsters. Doesn't have to be him, but then you also get to special summon a level 4 from your hand or graveyard to the field. The effect of the special summoned monster is negated, but oftentimes it's irrelevant as it's headed to the graveyard for the synchro summon. Next up is Reliona, who upon her summon gives us a Magistus spell or trap card. We also can return a banished level 4 or lower spellcaster to the graveyard, which doesn't come into play frequently. While she's in the graveyard, you can banish Reliona to equip a Magistus monster that isn't level 4 from the graveyard to the field. For clarity's sake, this means we want one of the extra deck monsters that's in the graveyard. Why they word it this way, I have no idea. I assume it's to infer that you're going to need an extra deck in the grave. Crowley lets us pitch a spellcaster to the grave to special summon. You can change his attribute, which can come in handy with one of our extra deck bosses later on, though since this deck did shift from being a Charmer, Familiar Possessed deck to a Magistus Pure deck, has come into relevance all of no times. Crowley also comes with an ability like Reliona that can equip an extra deck monster from the graveyard to the field. It's not a bad idea to pitch Reliona to special summon Crowley, and then you can already start setting up some of your extra deck plays. Endymion is next, and this one is a bit more of a support Magistus that wants to see other cards in play. You can target a Magistus you control and equip one of the monsters from your extra deck to it, which is something we didn't actually see on the previous 2 cards. You can destroy one of your face-up spells, aka your extra deck equips, to draw a card and then return a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. It's a nice filtering mechanic in case you have some dead draws or buds in hand that you want to take care of. We run a very small Dogmatica package to help us contend with some of the monsters that our opponents bring out from the extra deck. Fleur de Lis is a hand trap that also can negate a monster effect. It also gives our Dogmatica monsters 500 attack when they attack. We're also only running one of her, but we're going to run 2 of Ecclesia the Virtuous. She can't be destroyed by battle with a monster who's special summoned from the extra deck, so if your opponent goes ham on the special summons, it's going to be a hard time destroying her. She can also be used to tutor for one of our 2 other Dogmatica cards, but given our need to go into the extra deck, I very rarely use its ability because it locks you out of the extra deck for the turn. 2 Ash Blossoms and 2 Effect Veilers, just as our hand trap coverage. This is very heavily based on my Master Duel list, and it's either the RNG hating me or I have garbage luck, but I only run 2 because I constantly open with them, and I don't super need to have them flood my hand. On to the spells. 3 Trismegistus, perhaps the card that got this deck into some powerful contention. This gives us additional protection from destruction in battle, which is really good given that the extra protection that our extra deck equips provide. I've said a lot of extras in this video, it's kind of getting a little bit much. You can special summon a level 4 spellcaster, which saves us our normal summon for later if we need to search additional monsters out. You can also send this card to the graveyard to special summon any number of Magistus monsters from your hand, which can give you an explosive endgame. Magistus Invocation is our fusion spell. We can also use Magicalized Fusion here as well, but I prefer the Invocation because it allows us to use our Magistus that are currently equipped to monsters as materials as well. We're only running 1 here, but we can always bump it up to 2, maybe 3 if we need more access. 1 Theurgy, which is a quick play method of equipping a monster, though this can also be from the field and the graveyard as well as the extra deck. And if you happen to have one of each kind of extra deck Magistus in the graveyard, you can equip a non-Magistus extra deck monster instead, which isn't super relevant at this moment in time. 2 Vritra is our Monster Reborn for Magistus main deck monsters, and if one of your equipped Magistus would be destroyed, you can actually banish this card from your graveyard to substitute for its destruction. Now, because I'm a Yugi boomer and I'm an old fart and I love these cards, we run 1 each of Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, Monster Reborn, and Change of Heart, which is a group of cards that I never thought I'd see in a deck ever again. 1 copy of Called by the Grave to deal with hand traps, 2 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcasters to lock our opponents out of spells as long as we control Spellcaster. Big surprise, 99% of this deck is Spellcasters. 1 Terraforming to get to the villages, and then lastly 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Now, I feel like this could be kind of substituted for Pot of Extravagance or Pot of Prosperity, depending on which of the pots fits your fancy. Lastly, we have 2 each of Dogmatica Punishment and Infinite Impermanence for some troubleshooting cards. You can always substitute out the Dogmatica cards for some of the side deck cards, but I love using Punishment to get rid of problem cards on your opponent's board. Now on to the extra deck. 1 copy of Quintet Magician, which is a tremendous beat stick with a very powerful ability to boot. Just needs 5 different spellcasters and you can blow up everything on your opponent's board. And it's really hard to get rid of this, so I'll take it. 1 Oace, the Magistus Spell Spirit, who while equipped gives a beefy 1000 attack point boost. While this monster is in play as a monster, it acts as a quick effect Snatch Steal, which is really good to deal with problem children like Destiny Phoenix Enforcer before they become problems. 2 Zoroa, the Magistus Conflagrant Calamity, that is a mouthful. And this is the big boss of the deck, and while he is out, if you have any extra deck monsters equipped to the monsters you control, your opponent cannot activate abilities of those types of cards. This is the floodgate for the deck, and many Magistus decks today have become Zoroa Turbo decks. I can't tell you how many times I'm facing Dark Lords or DPE or even Prank Kids, and they try to get their big boss monster out while I've already got Zoroa equipped with that deck's extra monster baddie, and they failed to read the card. I will say that a lot of the Magistus deck's wins have been summed up as the opponent failed to read the card, which explains the card. I've won many games just out of my opponent throwing the game. Zoroa is pretty big to begin with, and oftentimes I'll drop 1 of each type of Magistus extra deck monster, which makes him wholly untouchable. Something key to remember is that if you can predict or anticipate what your opponent is on, you can preemptively equip Zoroa or another Magistus with the extra deck monster that will shut that down. My personal preference, Varum, the Divinity Dragon. It's often the one that I finish on equipping once I get my opponent's most likely threat neutralized. As not only does Varum offer protection from spells and traps, it gives a ruthless effect that largely makes the equipped monster untouchable in battle. And if you synchro summon Varum and it's destroyed, you can blow up all the face-up cards your opponent destroys, making him perhaps one of the best extra deck monsters. Bahamut Shark is likely getting summoned if we have Endymion or Crowley in play, but it's a great method that we use to get Totally Awesome out for an additional negate. Selene can get a ton of counters on her as your equipment creatures count as spells, and you can use a lot of those spells to special summon a spellcaster from your graveyard or hand. Artemis, the Magistus Moon Maiden, is our link monster for Magistus, letting us search once per turn while she is equipped to a monster. And if she isn't equipped, you can summon a monster that's a Magistus, and she can equip herself to that monster. She is relatively easy to summon, but she's very fragile, so you'll definitely want to get on getting her into equip mode. Reliona, the Mundurous Magistus Wardrobe Witch, lets you detach a material to special a Magistus from your deck, but you are also locked into only Magistus summons from your extra deck for the remainder of the turn. This is excellent if you open without a Zoroa, but have the means to get 2 level 4s out. If she is equipped to a monster, she also offers a monster effect negation once per turn. Ninaruru gives a second attack to the monster she's equipped to, and while she's on the field on her own, she can return a level 4 or higher spellcaster from your graveyard to your hand. She's perhaps the least impactful extra deck summon from the Magistus monsters, but there are times I want the extra attack, and it's always good to have some recursion. 2 Elder Entity Ensis, which are only here because of punishment. Dogmatica Punishment sends the entity to the graveyard to pop a monster with less than 2500 attack, and then the Elder Entity can pop another card. And then lastly, for largely the same reason as the Elder Entity, we have 5-headed Link Dragon. This is here for anything larger than 2500 that the entity cannot hit, and we can actually go into this if we absolutely need to. 5 different attributes is a little tricky to set up, but using Crowley to get the attributes we don't currently have makes this a lot easier than it looks. Our side deck comprises of 2 Dark Ruler No More, 2 Solemn Warnings, 2 Lightning Storms, 1 Final Impermanence, 3 Nibiru, 3 Dimensional Barrier, 2 Evenly Matched. This deck has been really the catalyst to getting me back into Yu-Gi-Oh! I've had a ton of fun playing this on Ranked, and it's actually done so well enough to get me up to Platinum rank. I didn't think it'd be worth trying, but we managed to do it anyway. Haven't quite got the chance to try it out in the real world settings, but the list we've discussed here is what I'm running in paper. We do have max Cs in the online client, which I do add to, taking out 1 copy of Crowley for a total of 41 main deck, 15 extra, and 15 side deck. The paper variant obviously doesn't run max C as it is rightfully banned. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at one of my favorite decks. What do you think? What's your favorite deck to play? Let me know, and I hope to see you all next time.